Let's return now to federal politics in Canberra, and joining me is the Regional Development Minister Kristy McBain. Let's start with the big news out of ASIO last night. We don't often say that, but this is the annual threat assessment talking about former politician. Should the government be naming who this person is in Parliament?
Good to be with you again, Kieran. I think it's pretty shocking and an absolute disgrace that a former politician has been caught up in this way. I think everyone in this building is absolutely here for the right reasons, and it's not something that we want to see happening. There's clearly confidentiality processes in this, and I think what it does go to show is that our top spy agencies are onto everybody in this country. We work so efficiently in this country that it does not matter who you are in this country. They will find you if you are doing the wrong thing against the national interest of Australia.
Yeah, indeed. Joe Hockey was on the program earlier. I spoke to him from Washington, a former ambassador, former treasurer. He says that, unfortunately, the way that it was announced impugns all former politicians, and he thinks that it should be cleared up as to who this person is.
I'm sure Joe's got his views on it, and other guests have had views on this. And I think it is important that we understand the process that's gone through here. And as we heard from that discussion last night, the A-team obviously has gotten onto this person. It is disappointing and, as I said, quite shocking. But those processes are in place for a reason, and perhaps there is more things happening behind the scene at this point which can't be spoken about at this point in time.
On to the Dunkley by-election, a lot of focus. It wouldn't surprise you, given your electorate. I know that you know the cost of living pressures are hurting Australians right across the board, but Dunkley is a middle Australia seat. That's what we're hearing from Frankston and around Carrum Downs. This is going to be a bit of a litmus test as to how the government's responding to these pressures.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the by-election was triggered by the very untimely death of our colleague Peter Murphy, who will be greatly missed in this place. There are many communities across the country who are doing it really tough at this point in time, and we are taking steps as a government to address cost of living issues, and that included recalling Parliament in December 2022 to make sure that there was a cap on coal and gas prices. Electricity rebates, childcare rebates, cheaper medicines, fee-free TAFE places, an increase to rental assistance, and obviously the tax cuts that have just passed Parliament. We know people are doing it tough. We're in a position to do things about them, which is why our policies and legislation over the last 18 months has been trying to directly address that. Inflation is not an Australian problem, it is a worldwide problem. And when you look at how other economies across the world are going, we are tracking okay because of the policies we've put in place. The Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, delivered a budget surplus, the first one in 15 years, because we've been so careful about not overspending and overstimulating the economy. And we will continue this track to make sure that we put downward pressure on inflation.
And so you're trying to take a bit of the pain out, but still the tax cuts don't go anywhere near the level of pressure people are feeling at the moment in terms of mortgage repayments, cost of living, the basket of goods at the groceries, at the supermarket stores. You'd hear this day in, day out, wouldn't you?
Yeah, look,
it's the number one issue.
Yeah, I do hear it. It is the number one issue for people, and absolutely we want to make it as easy for people as possible. What we have done with the amended Stage 3 tax cuts is give every taxpayer in the country a tax cut. Under the former plan from the Morrison government, more than 85% of people are better off with our plan as opposed to the previous plan. So we are addressing that issue because we are hearing it from people.
And on the discussion around EVs and the vehicle emissions, is that something that's cutting through? Is it resonating? Because obviously the coalition trying to put Labor under pressure ahead of Dunkley saying it's a ute tax. Is that cutting through?
I mean, it's just, again, ridiculous fear and negativity from an opposition. I mean, This was their policy when they were in government. They just didn't legislate it. You know, the member for Bradfield, Paul Fletcher, is on record numerous times saying that this will not make a material difference to car prices. I mean, the US, the largest pickup ute country in the world, has had vehicle emission standards since 1975. So the conversation has moved on. We want to get people more efficient vehicles, and there will be a mix of vehicles available across the country with these new standards.
Kristy McBain, thanks.
Thanks, Karen.